Welcome. And by the way, do you know you have something on your back? This is episode 334 of An Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 18th of December 2019. And since this is our last podcast until January 1st, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, have a good Kwanzaa, and Happy Yuletide, etc., and anything else we may have missed. Tonight's podcast features Turn Left, written by Russell T. Davies, and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Good evening.
Mad Matt Winchell.
I got the everything done.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Howdy!
And Thomas Fireheart.
Where do all these teleporting blondes come from?
So
Sounds like a personal problem.
So how's everybody's week's been? Or in the case of Thomas, or in the case of Bill, 2 weeks. In the case of Thomas, 3 weeks.
Hey, I haven't slept through any podcasts.
My sleeping habits are thankfully decent
but I
enough
am all
this
wrapped
week,
up with finals for the fall semester. And it looks like my connection's starting to go in and out. But I've had my first grad school interview, and yeah, now I'm mostly working fast food full-time until classes start up again.
Yeah, but you work at KFC, so you don't have to worry about having to say, do you want fries with that?
Ding, fries are done. Ding,
Does
fries
KFC
are done.
even still have their potato wedges?
Yes.
Yes, most definitely.
Although I don't know if I should be I don't know if I can say this in public, but allegedly we're switching to a new KFC fries at some point in 2020.
Oh.
But that's the most detail I have. So, and that could potentially not go.
It's an idea being floated.
It's an idea being floated. I'm not sure I like that.
It's probably going on in a few test restaurants right now, so that's usually the case. But that's about all I know.
Wedges are like one of the only reasons I eat potatoes at KFC. Every other place in the world has actually stopped using wedge fries, and I'm like, no.
I love Myers wedge fries, but anyway.
The day Pizza Extreme gave up wedge fries for traditional, like, crinkle cut fries, I was just like, done here. I can't remember how many Saturdays we sat at the help desk watching anime, eating hot wings and wedge fries. Oh, things that I miss. So I had a fun experience on Monday. After my first day back at cardiotherapy, I then had to take a box to the post office. Now, you know what month it is.
Yep.
Can you imagine how long I was in that line?
Probably an hour or two.
I'm guessing 3 hours.
Actually, it was only where it was a smaller post office, so it was only 1 hour while holding a box.
Oh, see, my small Main Street post office tends to have about 4 or 5 lines in its very small space, and
there's not enough room in this post office for 4 to 5 lines.
Even elbow to elbow and genital to redacted.
No, it's
there'd only be even my post office is too small. There'd be a single line out the door.
And that's
probably down the block.
That's virtually what this was too. Is pretty much right out the door. It was, for me, it was really painful because I had just spent, an hour on a treadmill. Then I had to go do this while holding a box and standing. And that sucks for me.
Just the entire time going, please fucking kill me.
Pretty much. And by the way, out of the ironies, this was to mail out the Christmas presents that Erin forgot to give out last year to her relatives. We found them as we were setting up the Christmas tree.
Whoops.
Did that save you from having to go out and buy a gift this year?
I think she's gone and bought stuff again.
But
Oh, God, that just about killed me. Which will probably send out the stuff we get this year, next year, as far as I know. Today was a lot lighter.
As long as it's not all cutting edge, Mandalorian and Baby Yoda and...
I don't think they're selling them yet.
I can tell you this. With the presents, we also found the present that Aaron got for our friend Bob, which she's not sure is topically relevant anymore, as it was a Stranger Days mug.
Stranger Days or Stranger Things?
Stranger Things, sorry. Stranger Things mug.
Stranger
I'm
Things
sorry.
is still a good show.
Yeah. The thing is, I told her that she should totally then get Bob a Mandalorian coffee mug for this year.
And wait a year. Whoops.
I even showed her one. It was a mug I saw online of Baby Yoda holding a cup. I'm like, that's about perfect.
Mm. Wait, it was a mug of Baby Yoda holding a mug?
With a picture of Baby Yoda holding a cup. Yeah.
Infinite recursion is possible.
The Baby Yoda is everywhere. You cannot defeat the Baby Yoda. He controls the horizontal and the vertical.
Other than that, it's been kind of a quiet week for me. Nothing but watching a little TV and playing video games.
Sorry about that.
So, are we ready to get going?
I'm ready to get going.
Nothing
All
too
right.
eventful on my end.
On tonight's show, we've got news and birthdays. We've got some geek talk. We were going to have some reviews of Shame, but we've decided to edit those for time, and they will be back on a later podcast.
Yes.
Then, of course, we've got our episode summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get into birthdays, shall we? The first birthday that's been in the past week was on the 12th of December, and that of Sarah Sutton, who played Nyssa from 1981 to 83. She turned 58 and can still be heard on Big Finish Productions.
Mm-hmm.
On the same day is the birthday of Bill Nighy, who played Dr. Black in Vincent and the Doctor, and Slarta Bartfus in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, 2005. He turned 70. That is, of course, the British actor Bill Nye, not the science guy.
Mm-hmm.
The one who was the vampire master. But I don't remember the vampire's name in Underworld.
He was
Victor.
also the stepfather in Shaun of the Dead.
Anyway, we move forward to the 13th of December, and that is the birthday of Hamish Wilson, who played Jamie in that one episode of The Mind Robber in 1968. He turned 77 and is only on our list because technically he played a companion.
Funny thing is, Seamus did something that got him more photos recently, so I actually have an up-to-date picture of him.
Then we skip to the 16th of December, and that is the birthday of Nicholas Courtney, who, of course, played Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart from 1968 to 1989 and again in 2008. He would have been 90 but died in 2011 at the age of 81, a.k.a. the year that Doctor Who fans cried.
And I think in non-BBC productions in the 90s.
Yeah, but I don't count those.
Shh.
17th of December sees two of our honorary mentions, the first of which is Bill Pullman, who played Oswald Danes in Torchwood Miracle Day, but is better known as playing Lone Star in Spaceballs in 1987 and President Whitmore in the Independence Day movies. He turned 66.
Mm-hmm.
On the same day is the birthday of Ernie Hudson, who played Stuart Owens in Torchwood Miracle Day, but is better known as Winston Zedmore in the Ghostbusters movies. He turned 74.
Of which he's going to be in the third one now. Hi, welcome back.
Thank goodness.
And finally, the seventh day also sees the birthday of Jacqueline Hill, who played Barbara Wright from 1963 to 1965. She would have been 90, but died in 1993 at the age of 63. And from birthdays, we go to deaths.
It is An Unearthly Podcast's sorrowful duty to announce the passing of Donald Tosh, the last surviving writer from the Hartnell era. Tosh started work with Granada Television, now ITV, creating a new series to compete with the BBC's Emergency Ward 10. This series, originally called Florizel Street, would change its name by the time it came into production to Coronation Street. He then jumped ship to the BBC in the early 60s, becoming script editor of the series Compact for 18 months before joining Doctor Who. He served as script editor for 9 months, from the Daleks' Master Plan to the Massacre on St. Bartholomew's Eve, which he helped rewrite. He continued on to rewrite parts of The Celestial Toymaker before leaving Doctor Who. However, most of his work on it was rewritten by successor Jerry Davis. After Doctor Who, he worked on shows like Sherlock Holmes and Ryan International, but retired from television in the 1970s. After that, he worked for a time for English Heritage and became head custodian of Sherborne Old Castle in Dorset. Donald Tosh was 84 when he died.
I couldn't find any, surviving relatives or anything. At least he made the good run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's it. There's no survivors left from the Hartnell era as far as writers or script editors.
We have lost the first generation of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Well, there's still some actors
There's a
left.
few actors, yeah.
There's a few actors, but they're starting to get on.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that is our births and our deaths. Time to go into our Series 12 news.
Okay. Anjali Mahindra and Laura Fraser guest appearances confirmed by BBC. We've reported this previously, but the BBC has confirmed that Sarah Jane Adventures alumni Anjali Mahindra is guest starring in an episode of Series 12, as well as Laura Fraser. Anjali has this to say about returning to the world of Doctor Who. As a huge fan of the last series, it's a bit of a dream come true getting to work opposite Jodie, Mandip, Tosin, and of course, after all these years, to work with Bradley again. There's something undeniably special about Jodie's Doctor, and to be bringing some terror to the joint was rather fun indeed. Fraser, who is best known for her work on The Missing and Better Call Saul, added in her 2 cents. I love this episode and couldn't resist playing such an intense character. I watched Doctor Who every week as a child, so it was a massive thrill to be asked to take part in such an iconic show.
All right, so we've heard this before because we saw their CVs, but it's good to hear official confirmation.
Yep.
Of course, for a second there, I was confused as work with Bradley again. Oh, right, he was one-off villain in Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yep. Just a one-off villain, and apparently they retapped him for Series 11, and now...
What? Doctor Who never does that.
Yeah.
Doctor Who? Reborrow actors? No.
Reuse it, taking an actor from a bit part and casting them in a larger role? Who could have imagined that happening?
Yes.
Tell the captain of the guards on
on
Gallifrey. He'll have a chuckle.
I wasn't even thinking classic Who, but you're absolutely right.
Oh, classic.
I was just thinking of how many times it's happened since 2006.
It's happened longer than that.
Yeah, it's a running tradition with the show.
Mm-hmm.
At least since the 80s.
Oh no, since the 70s too. You realize our birthday girl, Jacqueline Hill, came back to the show in the 1970s in Meglos as one of the characters there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that would be
the same thing in reverse.
That would be the opposite thing, yeah.
But no, that's still them retapping old talent.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I mean,
weird, but
although
okay.
for that matter, that's exactly what's going on with Mohindra. So
yeah,
there we go.
Patrick Troughton's son was in the War Games, and then came back again to be in Curse of Peladon, and then again in Midnight. So
Mm-hmm.
he's been in 60s, 70s, and current Doctor Who.
So the message is, be in Doctor Who once and you will never have to look for work again.
Well, have the revolving door whenever you want to come back.
I don't know if Midnight still counts as current. That's 2 showrunners ago.
Still, I guess I mean just like New Who in general.
Like within the last decade.
All right, we ready to move on?
Sure.
And as mentioned last week, images of the modified console room came out this week, and here they are.
Blue
Can I
light.
say how much I hate this console room?
I think you've not stopped expressing that, but sure.
I don't think the photographs do it justice.
I don't either, but it's not been the greatest to begin with.
It looks like a spider kind of died in the middle upside down, or a scorpion or something.
While at a rave party.
To be honest, I'm already thrown off by the fact that the giant pillars are orange instead of green, blue or green to begin with, to more match with the actual set from Superman.
I'm just annoyed the fact that they seem to be almost day glow orange. I mean,
I feel like the color hasn't changed from what they were in series.
Yes, I know, but it's
11,
gotten with the blue offset. It's even more in your face.
Yeah, it looks like it'd be really like visually noisy to walk around on. Like,
well, as I mentioned before, this is basically the colors of this set now are the colors of almost every other freaking modern poster and DVD cover. They just keep using the blues and oranges because they're supposed to be like companion colors or something like that.
Foreshadowing Disney buying BBC.
Oh no! Only thing missing is Mickey Mouse ears somewhere in the background of the TARDIS.
God, if Disney bought the BBC and bought the rights to Doctor Who, could you imagine the next MCU movie where the Doctor shows up and saves everything?
I think I see mouse ears in the roundels.
Oh no! Oh, dude!
Just noticing this. Is there actually anything in the middle
about
of
that?
the
Doctor being in the next Kingdom Hearts game.
Ah, nice.
You slowly realize that the pattern on the TARDIS floor that's supposed to be Gallifreyan symbols turn out to be mouse ears.
Yeah, like something that I only really just realized is there's no. I forget if that was a thing in Series 11 anyway, but there's like no central bit in the console. It's like there's the console, but there's nothing coming out of it.
Yeah. Also a little bit disconcerting because there's always been a time rotor.
Right. How else do you know if the TARDIS is going into catastrophic failure? Well, there'd better be cloister bells.
I mean, the motion of the time rotor has pretty much been TARDIS in motion.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how it does in this.
Yeah,
maybe the legs stand up. The legs stand up and crouch back down.
Actually, are we sure there isn't a centerpiece?
I think there might be a central pillar there that just looks like a rock of stone coming out. But...
Yeah, I think there is, but yeah, there's not much to it. Here, no, I can't get close up. Dang you.
I still swear to God, this is somebody that designed it looking at the first 4 series of Doctor Who and having no idea, what the function of the TARDIS stuff was supposed to do, because he's never watched any other episodes. And that just bothers me.
Do they share information about like who the set designers are? They probably do, right?
I'm pretty sure they should at least have blueprints on it.
I have blueprints from the original series in my freaking bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
It not only shows what each function of the TARDIS controls are, but gives you the basics of what they do. I could design a better TARDIS thing based on that. I don't know. The blue and orange itself just seems garish to me.
That's always been my problem with those covers too.
It's the fact that it's garish and it seems
it's way too saturated for me, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's too in your face.
Yeah.
Now, if they add a lot of like white lighting to it when there's people in there, then I think I'll take it a lot better. But just looking at this image, it's like somebody who has no experience with design was playing around with the settings in Photoshop and just yanked up the saturation all the way to max.
Also, the console itself doesn't, at least for me, doesn't really fit the rest of the aesthetic they're even going for. So it just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb by comparison to everything else.
And my problem is everything else takes over for the console. Visually, I mean, if you think about every console room, the center point is the console and everything's designed to draw your eye to the console.
Right.
And so your eyes are bouncing all around these giant freaking crystal lights and the weird blue stuff now in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I remember right, Matt Smith's TARDIS did its fair share of distracting from the console as well.
His first one, yeah.
I hated that console room too.
Mm-hmm.
I was okay with the Davies era console room. I was not overly fond of it, but I was okay with it. And then I hated Smith's console room. And then, of course, I loved the Smith Capaldi console room that they got after 2012. I freaking loved that console room to death. And now we've got this abomination.
Yep. With all the hexagons.
The hexagons don't bother me. The hexagons have been a thing since 2005.
What do the Ronalds even do? I don't know.
But as you can see, even the stairs leading up to other rooms are orange. If you look at the second picture.
God, imagine what the bedrooms and the library look like.
Oh God, yeah. I just realized those are stairs.
Yeah, this place would give me such a headache after being in it for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'd have to step outside, and immediately stepping outside this room, I'd just be like, "Oh, my eyes."
I would have to take my reading to the zero room.
I wonder if this TARDIS still has a pool in the library.
Unless they separate them again.
I feel like that's going to inspire a rant, so let's move to the next topic.
Moving right along, guy. Hit a toe there.
Okay. So, moving right along. Doctor Who's resident Bolchinian talked to Doctor Who magazine about Spyfall. If you're going to do a spy thriller, you want to bring in the gadgets. Spyfall is a story about technology as well. The rise of technology and our acceptance of technology is obviously interesting territory for Doctor Who. Technology is outpacing us all at the moment, more so than we ever before. I'm not sure we're all aware of what our technology can do, even though we're all happily wearing it. The second episode, Spyfall Part 2, is no less epic than the first, but events take a darker turn. Very different in mood and visual and tone. There are many matters of life and death, and there are sinister forces at work across different dimensions. Sir Lenny Henry was also interviewed about his character and clarified something. I was asked to do Doctor Who to play a certain person called Daniel Barton, who is a tech genius. Think Jeff Bezos or the Google guys. We don't know what he is, but we know something ain't right about this guy, so it's going to be a fantastic Doctor Who on New Year's Day. Finally, Jodie Whittaker was asked about the formal wear worn by the TARDIS team in this episode. We have to blend in at a very posh party, so we all rock up in our finest. Spyfall Part 1 airs Wednesday, 1st of January, and An Unearthly Podcast will be giving our non-voting review that evening.
And then Spyfall Part 2 will be airing the following Sunday. And that means that we'll be giving the next week will be Spyfall Part 2 and our voting. So, yay! New season, rock on.
Thus it begins.
That's all there really was. There was a thing about a BFI screening, but all it was a bunch of people taking Twitter pictures of themselves at the screening with no information. So yeah, we'll skip that. All right. Moving on to media releases. Bill, I believe this is yours. Bill? Unearthly Podcast, The Planet Bill.
Bill, make sure your microphone is on.
Sorry, I was being talked to off call, and yeah. Yes, so in our news, the BBC has announced the next series to get the Steelbook treatment, and it's Matt Smith's first series, Series 5. How many times can I use the word series in a sentence? Bonus features include 2 Meanwhile in the TARDIS additional scenes, 4 The Monster Files, a 3-part video diary, 13 Doctor Who confidential cutdowns, 6 in-vision commentaries, outtakes, and over 20 teasers and trailers. The Steelbook will feature new artwork exclusive to the release.
So there you go. There's the next big series.
And I'm thinking most of that's not original, right? Most of that, I think,
most of that was
already
in the DVD.
in existence.
That was in the Series 5 DVD set. But that's all we have at this point. So, I don't know if there's going to be more or not. But this was the smallest announcement I've ever seen for a Steelbook release. So,
yeah.
Because normally they have this big, huge, item list of stuff, and no, there's just that paragraph blurb.
Yeah.
All right. From DVD or Blu-ray, we go to books. And Candy Jar Books announced Book 3 of the Bloodline series, Lethbridge Stewart, An Ordinary Man. In it, reality has changed, and the Lethbridge Stewarts and Traverses no longer exist, or at least not as they were. In the new timeline, Archie Lethbridge Stewart is an ordinary school teacher. Yet one of his students keeps seeing London covered in web. What's happening, and who's this person coming up to him and calling him Alistair? Lethbridge Stewart, An Ordinary Man is available to pre-order from the Candy Jar website and is covered by subscriptions. And from there, we go to Big Finish news.
Okay. Big Finish goes back to the Genesis of the Daleks, that is, this time with a less morally bound character than the Doctor. Derek Jacobi's War Master is going to make his attempt to stop the Daleks at the beginning, but the Daleks have a plan and a master of their own. Episodes include From the Flames by Nicholas Briggs, The Master's Dalek Plan by Alan Barnes, Shockwave by Alan Barnes, and He Who Wins by Nicholas Briggs. The War Master Anti-Genesis is available now at £22.99 for the Collector's Edition CD box set, or £19.99 for the digital download.
And by the way, the other master in that is the alternate universe master, who's played by Mark Gatiss.
Also, Captain Jack is back in the latest monthly installment of Torchwood, and he's pregnant.
It's not a tumor.
Jack must stop the Yalnix Empire from invading Earth while up the duff, having one in the oven, in a family way, etc. Fortunately, he's helped by Yanto Jones. Torchwood Expectant is available now as a collector's edition CD at £9.99 or on download at £7.99.
Well, we all knew it was bound to happen eventually, didn't we?
One way or another.
Wait, wasn't it the first episode of Torchwood when he said he's not getting pregnant again?
Well, apparently he failed.
Whoops.
Or maybe this happens before the beginning of Torchwood.
Which would mean he barely knows who Yanto is, if so.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, if Yanto's there, that would have to be later. Yeah, so it looks like he failed. All right.
Forgot the contraceptives.
All right.
So that takes us to the coming soon section.
Yes. Coming next month, or next year, Tom Baker, Lala Ward, Matthew Waterhouse, and John Leeson are joined by actress Jane Asher for the first story in the fourth Doctor Adventures Series 9, Chase the Night. In it, Asher plays a pilot obsessed with survival. She'd do anything to save her people. Doctor Who Chase the Night is now available for pre-order as a digital download for just $12.99 from the Big Finish website. It is also part of the fourth Doctor Adventures Series 9 Volume 1, which is also available for pre-order as a collector's edition CD or on download for $19.99.
Now, if you think about it, that's one of those that you should probably just buy the series set anyway, because it's only £7 more, and you're going to get more for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next, and this is the big news out of Big Finish.
Oh yes. John Sims joins the Big Finish crew in 2021 in Doctor Who Masterful. Sim will team up with various other masters, including Jeffrey Beavers, Mark Gaddis, Derek Jacobi, Alex McQueen, Milo Parker, and Eric Roberts, and Michelle Gomez, all to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Master's first appearance. Doctor Who Masterful is now available to pre-order as a limited edition 8-CD box set, priced at $44.99, or on download at $39.99. This release will be limited to 3,000 copies and available exclusively only via the Big Finish website.
That's right. This is basically the Masters' 50th anniversary, the 8 Masters.
There's a lot of people speculating as to what version of the Master Milo Parker is meant to be, and of course we will have no idea really until we get to listen and see if there's any clues. Although some people are noticing that James Dreyfus, who played the Master in the first Doctor Adventures and then subsequently had some controversy over some tweets he made, is not appearing in this. So whether those two are related in any way, we will not know until we listen.
Yeah, he could be the replacement for that, considering I'm pretty sure Big Finish sent him a little letter going, "You're fired!" All right. Anyway, that is all the news we have this week. Of course, we have no next week. So in 2 weeks when we come back, we will not be talking about any Spyfall rumor news, because that will now be a past episode.
Part 1 anyway.
Yeah, part 1. There might be some part 2 things that we can let fly, but we'll see about that. Anyway, from here we are going to our Geek Talk section, which is a little full today, because we have Thomas back, and he's been slowly collecting stuff over the last 3 weeks that he's been out.
Thankfully, it's all from 2019, and we have trimmed this down.
And we are going to be timing it religiously.
Yes.
The first one is a pared down version of what it originally was. He was going to talk about the CW up till now. Instead, he's just going to talk about Batwoman, because that has completed its half season. So, Bill, take that away.
So Batwoman has been a new show on CW this year. And the entire season is available on CW, which is usually not the case. You can usually only see 5 episodes at a time, but they're really pushing this. This is kind of a new expansion of the CW, because they're finally allowed to use words like Wayne and Bat and Gotham, and not just in the shadows. And if I were to characterize this show, it's like if Gotham, the Fox show, and Arrow had a baby who just happened to be lesbian.
That's wow.
And yes, if you're annoyed by politics being in your show, this is not the show for you, because Batwoman is a lesbian who is willing to stand up for her rights and not to be pushed around, and that shows up a few times. I personally didn't find it annoying in any way, but I just say this because I know there are people that are going to bitch out there. I don't know if they listen to me or not. What was I going to say? So one thing I do find interesting about this, and I know I'm short on time, but if you only know the Batman universe from movies and shows, which is 90% of my Batman knowledge, you will not recognize any characters that have appeared in this season. Whether that's due to rights issues or whether it was an artistic choice, I'm not entirely sure. They do mention a few characters, but it seems to be more of like a next generation thing. Lucius Fox's son appears. Alfred's daughter appears. But we don't really get a full picture of the status of these older characters. I'm not going to say who one is mentioned to be dead, but knowing this is comic books, they might not actually be dead.
That
but
and I
yeah.
believe it's slightly in the future, but also the alternate universe. So this is where Batwoman takes place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's closer to Batman Beyond than it is Batman because
it's
of the settings.
Probably. So I mean, it's
slightly.
Yeah. They don't mention Robins in any way, but given the fact that certain characters don't appear, it makes it seem like it has to be after the most well-known Batman canon.
Okay.
All right. 2 minutes is up, by the way. Anything else really quick?
I was just going to say the first half season basically does not really have its own ending, like in terms of being a separate season from the second half. It just kind of ups the stakes in the mid-season finale right before Crisis to kind of really prepare you for the second half, but it's not one of those where there's one story in the first half and a different story in the second half. It seems like it's one story with just Crisis in the middle.
Okay.
Alrighty. So next up is Knives Out, I believe.
Yep. It's funny because with this movie, I purely went into it based on the fact that I love The Last Jedi, and Rian Johnson wrote and directed that and this. And holy shit, I am so glad that I took a chance on it because it is fucking great. Like, maybe it's just me, and it is one of those things where it feels reminiscent of like typical sort of Poirot, Miss Marple type murder mystery stuff. Maybe Murder She Wrote as well. But in a way that's like paying tribute to that stuff, not necessarily like, oh, I'm just gonna do that because whatever. It's like it's its own thing, but it's like an update. It's both paying tribute to like that kind of stuff, but also moving it forward. It's like the actors are all great. The interactions between family members is pretty funny. Like all of these actors are just clearly having fun with this, especially Daniel Craig doing his southern drawl, which is so weird to hear because I'm so used to his Bond voice. It's weird having him put on an American accent in even the one that's specific. But yeah, I would absolutely recommend people go see this. It is absolutely worth it. If I could afford to, I would have seen it a second time by now, but something tells me I might not be able to afford to see it again before it finishes up its run. And moving on to Ford v Ferrari, I can honestly tell you I only saw that movie, Ford v Ferrari, because my dad wanted to see it. Because my dad's actually into cars and racing stuff and all that. But
I was hoping you were going to say they were about people named after cars.
I mean, technically, like the whole thing is that it's, Henry Ford II wanting to, in kind of a dick waving contest with, I forget his full name, but whoever Ferrari. I mean, like the idea is that it's the companies, like literally like Ford Motors versus Ferrari kind of thing, because it's based on a real, like it's based on a thing that happened in the 60s, I think, where Ford were like, okay, we're going to go to this specific race, like 24 hours in Le Mans.
It's Enzo Ferrari, by the way.
Yeah. And we're going to try and beat them in this specific race. because that will increase our sales or whatever the hell. But it's much more about the people involved, so I actually gave a shit. Like, it's not just like, hey, here's some cars, they go fast, yay. It's like, it's a character study in a way, I guess. Or at the very least, generally, the characters totally sell the movie for me. I don't know how much of this is like dramatic license. It would not surprise me if there was some. Although they really like making the Ford Motor execs look like assholes, which is to me is kind of funny, just because I'm like, wow, Ford's actually letting the top brass look like assholes. I wonder how much money it took for them to be willing to let that happen.
It could be the current regime going, yeah, those guys back then were assholes.
To make themselves look better by comparison.
Possibly.
Yeah. But yeah, generally, honestly, a really good movie. I'm glad that I went and saw it. I don't know if I would see it again in the cinemas or whatever, but it's probably finished its run anyway by now where I live. But yeah.
It was early November, so yeah, it's probably just about wound its way down.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely say if it's still on where you are, I'd say give it a shot. If not, wait until it comes out on a home release of some kind or streaming and give it a shot. And moving on to the big one,
Yep.
the one I saw this morning, Star Wars Episode 9.
Do I need to mute my ears?
No, I will not
no spoilers
be
or we
even,
all kill
I
you.
will not be even doing references, oh, this happens or that happens or whatever. But I will say, gut reaction having seen it this morning, so, future viewings down the line may change my opinion, whatever. This is, as of now, the worst of this trilogy, to me.
Oh!
Oof!
This movie has no idea, to me, what it wants to be. You can say what you want about The Force Awakens, and I have mixed feelings on it, but it knows what it wants to be. The Last Jedi, you can have your own opinions of it, but at least you know it knows what it wanted to be.
Subversive,
This movie
mostly.
has no idea what it wants to be. And there's there are some things where people said The Last Jedi spat in the face of some things that either Force Awakens did or whatever. This movie, holy shit.
Oh, I've heard some parts in this think it's spiteful.
So you're saying if The Last Jedi spat in the face of things, this one is smearing shit all over it?
This one's mostly smearing shit in the face of the previous movie. There's some direct attacks.
This is JJ spitting on himself. This is JJ spitting on the original trilogy. This is JJ spitting on Star Wars in general, to me. I mean, there are things
JJ,
to like about
I have some
this
questions
movie.
for you.
There are things to like about this movie, and again, this is me. And I will say there are certain decisions made. I obviously won't even vaguely elaborate, but there are certain decisions in this movie that have been overarching sequel trilogy things that I was never going to like if they went in a particular way.
And they did
so me not liking them is a me thing. But then there are other things they do in this that I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like, at the end of it, my nephew that I saw it with was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I just sat there like, what the fuck even just happened? Like, my problem has something I came to before, because I used to rag on J.J. Abrams for decisions I didn't like in Force Awakens, or just generally things in Force Awakens, or I would be, whatever. Don't attack the directors. I was talking about this last time I was here with Randy, but the problem isn't the directors. The problem is Lucasfilm deciding Star Wars go, and not, hey, let's actually fucking plan something out.
Actually, it's not Lucasfilm that decided it. It's Disney that decided it, and Lucasfilm went, what?
No, as far as I can tell, Lucasfilm, like, in an interview where it was like where Kathleen Kennedy took over, it was just like, so what are you gonna do now? Star Wars! I was like, we're gonna immediately go into movies.
That's because Disney told them to, and Kathleen Kennedy basically has her head up Disney's ass.
Yeah.
Like, regardless, I blame the companies in charge as opposed to these poor directors that are like, hey, make a Star Wars go. Ah, shit. What do I do? Like, I mean,
I blame the
J.J.
companies
Abrams-
first, but I will say that I would say that I don't think J.J. Abrams was a good pick anyways.
J.J. Abrams was picked because he did Star Trek, revitalized the Star Trek franchise, and then killed it, but that was after he got over here. But people went, oh my god, that's the best Star Wars movie Star Trek ever made. Let's put him in charge of Star Wars.
And the funny thing is, him like doing Force Awakens, given what Force Awakens is, that made sense. Him doing this movie just feels like he was kind of like, oh shit, I have to do another one. The Last Jedi used up all the references to the original trilogy, so I'm kind of tapped. What do? I actually have to make up new shit. It's just like
he's like the Game of Thrones guys. He's
kind
good at
of, but I feel like
shit, but when it comes to new shit, he basically falls apart.
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, it doesn't help as well that like Colin Trevorrow does seem to get story by credit, so I think this was more so they got rid of Colin Trevorrow,
So
and from
maybe
what I
it's a
heard, we
Justice
actually
League situation.
seemingly.
Are you talking about the
I
previous
mean-
director who was supposed to do this?
Yeah, like apparently
He
they
walked away.
As far as I know, they ditched him. Like it was a
No,
matter
he
of
purposely
like,
he has stated multiple times
differences.
he walked away because he was supposed to have certain characters that he wanted to do stuff with, and they killed them in the previous movie.
I mean,
So they
by the
were
time he
forcing
would
him
have
to
been
rewrite
working
everything,
on-
and he just went, ah, fuck it, and left.
I mean, as far as I can tell, it was just a matter of, from what I have heard, and there's differing things anyway. I mean,
There's
far as I was aware-
there's different things all over the place.
as far as I was aware, it was Disney saw Book of Henry bomb, and they were like, okay, see ya. And other things I've heard, it was just a matter of they didn't like the direction he was going with it. I mean, it was very early in production that he was cut, but he still gets like credit because I assume it's
He's at least
maybe
started
it
for
was
some
a
of the rewrites,
case
I'm
of-
sure, yeah.
yeah, like maybe it was a case of JJ had to take what he already had, or just was like, well, shit, I might as well use what he's done and just tweak it. And maybe that's why, because this wasn't allowed to be like, because again, this is the problem I have with this trilogy in general is that there was no, for lack of a better thing, there was no Kevin Feige of this trilogy. Like, say what you will about any Star Wars movie prior to these three, at least George Lucas was like
I was about to
the
say.
guy steering the ship. Like even the original
at the very
trilogy-
least, George Lucas, no matter how flawed some of his executions might be, at least he had a point A to get to a point B, and knew
Yeah.
how to get there somehow.
Lucas was better when he had the point A to point B, and then to have someone else write the fiddly bits.
Agreed.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, again, that's
how
what
he
I
did-
mean.
That's how the
That's
original
he did
trilogy
Empire,
was.
and that's how he did Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
That's
as far
what
as
he
I'm
forgot
concerned,
to do
that's
for the prequels.
yeah, it's one of those things where I'm surprised that's not what they did here. Like, you think they would have gone, okay, JJ, you're like I guess for lack of a better term, you're the showrunner of this. You come up with like we need to get here plots.
See, that's
each
where I already have
three,
an issue with
and
J.J.
then
Abrams, is
go.
because this is the man who created Lost.
Well, yeah, again, it's just like
The man never has answers. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's one of those things where, to me, again, there were people who were like, yay, cheering, and there was people clapping at the end, and I was just like, what the fuck did I just say? I saw The Force Awakens 3 times in the cinemas, twice because I wanted to wrap my head around it properly, the third because I took my dad. I saw The Last Jedi 4 times because it is my favorite Star Wars movie. This I saw once.
And you're not sure you
don't
want to see
know
again.
if I'm gonna. Yeah, I don't think I will see this again. At least not in the cinemas. Like,
I've been hearing about so much infighting going on behind the scenes, and by the way, the infighting rumors came with the rumors of also what came to be true on the screen. So take it with a grain of salt. But I've been hearing so much infighting and back and forth. It's just like, this is going to be a mess one way or another.
I personally have seen various websites taking quotes out of context and trying to create fights where the cast and crew are saying, no, this is not at all what we were saying, and we have no problems with each other, including taking two out of context quotes and sticking them together to make them look like they were trashing on someone. So
rumor in the scuttlebutt is that Kathleen Kennedy's on her way out.
That is a big, constantly recurring one.
But that I was going to say, that rumor has been going on at least 3 years.
Yeah, it's been going on since at least everyone getting divisive over Last Jedi and then Solo tanking. Let's face it, this is the last of the Skywalker saga. This is going to do well.
Here's the big thing, though.
It might not do as well. It might not do as well as Force Awakens, but this is going to do well because it's the last of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, but anyways, I think we're way over our 5 minutes.
Rumor has it it's going to go to Feige, but that's to see in the.
That's
I think it's just if Feige's working on I think it's if Feige's working on a one-off movie.
Actually, I've been hearing he's working on a trilogy, but they have to actually get the thing down first.
They've announced no more set in stone trilogies. They're doing everything one at a time from now on.
Maybe we'll see. If anyone could convince them to do a trilogy, it'd be him.
They have to pull him away from the MCU first.
But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
that concludes our movies section. So
for now. So Pokemon Sword.
Okay, so yep. It's funny to me because I feel like with the Pokemon games, like there were probably people who have been playing like every generation since one, or from whenever they started playing to now. I haven't played a Pokemon game since Gen 3. I haven't owned a Pokemon game since Gen 2. So Pokemon Sword was like a breath of fresh air. I remember I would bring certain stuff up and they would be like, yeah, that's been around since at least the last set of games, like Sun and Moon. And it's just like, oh, okay, well, this is new to me at least, like how you don't have to teach a Pokemon fly anymore. Thank God for that. Like, you don't have to waste a fucking slot on that. You don't have to teach a Pokemon surf. You don't basically, you don't have to have what are usually referred to, I think, jokingly as like HMs. That. But yeah, it's like I very much enjoyed this game. I'm still in like the end game stuff. Just trying to fill out the Pokédex and stuff like that. But to me, this is enjoyable. It almost feels like this is one of the Pokemon games that could directly translate to an anime a lot better. Because there's an actual story going on. I mean, like, isn't like there are times where you'll deviate from instead of just like go to the 8 gyms and then win the championship. It's like go to a few gyms, story stuff, and then you keep going. So I was like, oh, that's a nice distraction. I mean, it did throw me off at first though, because I am so used to that old mentality of just go to all the gyms. Maybe you'll encounter villains along the way, but you're basically just doing the gyms. So when one is like, okay, you finished that gym, now go to this city, I interpret it as, oh, okay, so that's the next gym I have to do, when it's actually the city for the final gym. So it's like, oh, whoops.
It's funny you say that because just from the people the Let's Plays that I've watched, a lot of people have the opposite reaction to that, and that's most Pokemon games you get about 2/3 of the way through the gyms, and then you do the majority of the stuff with the majority of the main story, the big bad and whatever, and then you finish the gyms. Whereas this one, you don't even really find out what that plot is until you finish the gyms.
you do and don't. There's breaks in between that lead up to the final bit, but yeah, like there is a bit at the end where everything just kind of veers off to let the story conclude and then go back to the championship. Won't say what, but yeah. But generally I've enjoyed this game so far. There are people that are all pissy because they didn't put all of the Pokemon ever in this.
They didn't put
honestly,
enough
I'm fine
textures
with
on the
that.
trees, apparently.
The one I've been hearing the most was they reused models, but that's another story.
As far as I can tell, they did entirely new models, but I think that's just because they were doing it for the Switch, and it's just that like they were using the base animations or something.
My
but, like,
understanding,
they had to make new models or something. Like
my
that.
understanding is that when they made the 3D models in 2013, it was with the intention of using them pretty much in perpetuity, and they've made minor tweaks, but have kept the same models since then.
Yeah. But generally, from what I can recall them saying, the idea was not having like literally every Pokemon ever was a matter of, well, do you want us to work our friggin' workers into dust, like have our workers grind their fingers into dust, or do you want the game? Like, it was like it's like, and hell, for all we know, they could eventually add the ones
That's
that are
been my theory
missing
too,
over
is that they could
time.
possibly add some of the extra Pokemon eventually.
Yeah, like if they really want to, they can just have a longer gap between this and whatever.
I mean,
the
it's a
next
Switch game.
stuff
It's
is.
not new to have free DLC.
Yeah. Yeah, so they could very easily just be like, hey, here's a massive update where we're adding like 20 Pokemon or 50 Pokemon or whatever. But yeah, like generally, at the very least, I enjoyed it. I do like the increased emphasis, which I don't know if this is new to this generation or if this happened in like Sun and Moon or something. But I do like the increased emphasis on having a connection with your Pokemon, because like you can set up camp and play with them. Like you have this little I don't know, it's like this little toy that you'd have for cats or something, where it's like a little feather with a ball on it or whatever. Like a little wand,
Yeah, I was about to say we're getting a little long-winded.
Yeah. But yeah, generally, I would definitely check both Sword and Shield out. Either if you have a Switch, when you get a Switch, whatever.
1 week from now.
Is that a hope or a confirmation?
It's under the tree.
Someone wants to play Breath of the Wild. Well, I almost said Wind
I want
Waker.
to play both Breath of the Wild, including the one that's not out yet, you know? I'm just like...
All right, and I
like,
believe...
I'm not letting it out of the box, because I know you would have it out of its in moments.
I believe then the last one here for the Geek Talk is me for Earth Defense Force 4.1. So, do you like giant monsters? Do you like giant robots? If you do, Earth Defense Force might be your thing. Also, especially if you like, say, the Dynasty Warriors or Samurai Warriors games. Basic premise is that this is a fourth entry, and not every entry is on the same dimension, essentially. But apparently, Earth Defense Force takes place several years after 3, so much so that there's rumors of what happened. But essentially, there's been an alien invasion, and once again, the alien invasion has come back, and the first thing they do is set about the world with giant ants. This then quickly expands into spiders, bees, and then those expand into dragons, which then expand into essentially Godzilla-sized monsters with glowy bits and everything, and fire breath. Also included in this is the fact that you are playing one of 4 human character classes. You are playing either the Ranger, who is an expert at firearms, and in particular rocket launchers. You are playing otherwise the Valkyrie, who is a flying character with sniper rifles. and I forget what the other two are called, but essentially there's one that's basically a tank class that's supposed to help like really power through little minions. And then there's the person who does essentially airdrops. I mean, everything from missiles to airdropping tanks and miniature mecha to help do battle with all the monsters. Not only do we get the...
Did you mention, Matt, that this was a remastered version of Earth Defense Force 2025?
I did not know about that. I just knew that there was an expansion of 4 because there was at least, I believe, 5 or 6 DLCs on this
Earth
thing.
Defense Force 4 was renamed Earth Defense Force 2025 for its PlayStation 3 release.
Ah, okay.
So 4.1 is the PlayStation 4 version,
Which is also on PC.
Yeah.
As I was saying, there's Godzilla-sized monsters and as well as the bug monsters, but there's also alien craft that you have to deal with, including not limited to a giant piss-off mecha alien machine that transforms from a ship into an actual bipedal monstrosity with guns for hands. There is
So it's a Decepticon?
Kinda. There is a trying to think what there's small aircraft that you also have to take care of, and there's also a smaller humanoid-looking craft with like single eyed heads, and you also have to deal with tripods, almost like they're direct out of War of the Worlds, or not War of the Worlds.
Yeah, War of the
Oh
Worlds.
yeah,
is
War of the
tripods.
Worlds. The H.G. Wells. There's actually legitimately tripods. They call them something else, but you can look at them. They're only got 3 legs, and they're long, squidly legs, and it's just like, those are tripods. So there's all kinds of little sci-fi references, both Western and Japanese, with the different type of enemies you have to deal with. And there are a couple of times within the game where you have to jump into an even bigger mecha than what you can normally get your hands on, and you have to literally play Rock'em Sock'em Robots with giant Godzilla monsters. I will say that we played this on normal. I played this with a group, so we had every individual class when possible. There are sometimes when the airdrop person is useless, so you might as well just have another ranger. But other than that, the only other problem I can think of is that the last couple of levels got so difficult that we had to go to easy. Like literally, we had to fight 5 or 6 boss monsters while also spawning with a giant swarm of enemies, so it was really impossible unless you happen to have already ground for gear in the background. And the only way to do that is if you go to a higher difficulty, so I'm not sure how people beat the expert modes. But other than that, it was actually a pretty fun ride.
Is that everything?
And that's about it for Earth Defense Force.
And that's about it for our Geek Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We are through it.
All right.
So that takes us to the main portion of our podcast. Since we're not doing reviews of shame this week, that takes us to our episode summary, which talked before is Thomas this week.
Mm-hmm. So thankfully, I was at least here for the week where I had to do the summary.
All right, Thomas, whenever you're ready.
This of course means we won't see him again for 5 weeks.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we open with the Doctor and Donna checking out Space Chinatown or something when Donna is called over by a supposed fortune teller who ends up forcing her to relive a decision she made that ultimately led to her meeting the Doctor, making her turn right instead of left at an intersection with a choice of one job over the other. When events change, Donna is forced to relive the events of Runaway Bride, except instead the Rachnos damages part of London, and the giant web thing is shot down, with the Doctor dying off screen as a result of him having still killed the Rachnos Queen and her babies, but drowned in the process. Donna is then, and Rose shows up for a bit. Donna is then forced to relive the events of Smith and Jones, with all but one person surviving, which means Martha and both Sarah Jane are confirmed dead. After a second meeting with Rose, we skip ahead to the events of Voyage of the Damned. Due to the Doctor not being around, the Titanic spaceship crashes into London, destroying it utterly. Donna and her family, who were out of town because Rose gave her a tip-off, are moved to Leeds as Britain is now under martial law. We skip ahead again to the Sontaran stratagem when Donna meets Rose again, who explains the Torchwood team are now dead because they have dealt with the Sontaran plot. We skip ahead again to the immigrant families Donna and her family were living with being sent off to an internment camp. And we see a while later that the stars are now going out, with Donna finally telling Rose she's ready, and Rose taking her to Unit, who turns out have the TARDIS, which appears to be dying. They also show Donna the massive beetle that's on her back, using this setup that they have, explaining that the beetle caused all of this, and that she has to travel back in time to change things back to how they were before, to undo all this. Ultimately, when sent back, Donna is dropped in the wrong location and realizes that she's probably not going to make it. And once she realizes that, she ends up killing herself as a way to stop everything because it backs up traffic and forces the other Donna to turn left instead of turning right, undoing everything that happened in the episode and seemingly killing the beetle that was on her back. The Doctor and Donna are reunited. The Doctor explains that the beetle is tied to the Trickster, a Sarah Jane Adventures villain. While trying to recall what happened, Donna remembers that what Rose told her before she died, and tells the Doctor that she wanted to pass on the message Bad Wolf, causing the Doctor to see it everywhere, including on the TARDIS. And we end the episode with Donna asking what it means, with the Doctor replying it means the end of the world. Done.
All
3
right.
minutes, 5 seconds.
Good. We have a schedule. And we're not doing a 12-minute summary, Tim.
No. It was 13.
Is that what happened last week?
Yes.
Yes.
We had to call Tim out for almost going word for word some scene.
Was he reading the script?
Just about. Anyway, so it's what we liked about the episode overall. And Bill, you're first.
All right, so I'm going to go with the snappy pacing. They covered 2 seasons worth of content, but it never feels like you're rushing along and can't figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
But it also never drags or has you sitting around like oh, what's going on. Anytime there's either something that moves the plot forward or is entertaining and keeping your attention, and I think it had just worked out very well overall.
All right. Matt?
Thing I liked overall, I'm gonna say Catherine Tate is just amazing in this particular story. This is something that required her as Donna Noble to just carry the whole thing, and she did a great job.
Yeah.
All right. Tim?
I loved how daring this episode was, and how messed up it showed to the world getting more and more, all based on it took the idea of the butterfly effect type thing, and it just ran with it all the way off the cliff down into the pit. But I'm saying that's a good thing.
All right.
Very courageous.
What did a butterfly ever do to you?
Thomas?
Oh, don't make me started about butterflies.
I guess I just like the general premise of being able to see what would have happened in so many of these situations if the Doctor hadn't been around
Yeah.
to fix it. Especially because with how it's like, well, it's not going to matter anyway, so let's really go for it. And they kill off like everyone. It's like Donna and her family really are like the only characters we know aside from Rose that are like around by the end of it. They kill off Sarah Jane, they kill off Martha, they kill off the Doctor. They're just like, fuck it, doesn't matter anyway. We'll just, just go nuts.
Except the Brigadier.
I'm going to have to feed off Thomas's on this one. Because what if is one of the reasons I read fan fiction. You know, I read Harry Potter fan fiction. And I'm like, ones that attract me is what if Sirius Black had never went to Azkaban? What if, Harry's name had never come out of the Goblet of Fire? That kind of thing appeals to me, and I like to see the repercussions on this. It's very rarely you see a what if happen factually. Actually, Marvel Comics made a whole series called What If.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
But
like the only what if Doctor Who may have done before this was in, because you essentially see the Doctor's like, oh, so if this goes wrong, this will happen.
I'm sorry, was in what? You suddenly went mute there.
Inferno.
Yeah.
Inferno, okay.
Now that was technically an alternate universe. This is even.
Oh
more,
yeah.
This is even more of a, because this was a whole universe that bled around what if. The whole premise is she turned left instead of turning right.
Yeah.
Or she turned right instead of turning left, and that changed everything. So this is the biggest what if I've ever seen in one of these moments. And it's just, for me, it's absolutely great to see. Yes, it kills everybody, because the absence of the Doctor means that every single person has to give their all to take his place. It's just such a wonderful way of looking at it that I enjoyed the hell out of it. Okay, so we all said what we liked. Let's talk about what we disliked. Bill?
So I'm going to go with the mechanics of whatever was going on with Rose just seem a little far-stretched to me. The combination of seeing the future, seemingly time traveling, and the fact that, the dimension hopping in and of itself kind of makes sense, but combined with the fact that Unit is reporting to her without knowing who she is, and seeing the future and possibly time traveling, it starts to be a bit too much without an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She really is getting into Mary Sue's territory.
Mm-hmm.
At least until River takes that baton and runs with it.
Yeah.
Matt, how about you? What did you dislike about the serial?
Oh gosh, I kind of in the same position. This seems a little too over coincidental how Rose keeps following Donna around like she does. I mean, supposedly she's supposed to be popping in from another dimension and just happens to be in this particular timeline. But it's like, well, how do you then keep bumping into Donna every bloody freaking time you do this?
It would make more sense if she had a device that goes ding.
Yeah, it would make more sense if we saw what was on the other end and they had an explanation for it. And they were actually, they already had Donna's timeline plotted out. They're just making sure to visit at key points or something. But they don't explain it at all.
She was trying to home in on the Doctor, and because that was Donna that was giving off all this.
Well, there's weird energy, so she keeps bumping into Donna, yeah.
Yeah.
Just something.
But there's no lines like that, nothing. So, yeah. Jim, how about you? What did you dislike about the episode?
The whole premise of the Chinese fortune teller thing, which could have been explained better. Like, what, was she working for that bug thing? Was she, was she the bug thing? Like a dual thing, or what is what was the impetus for this whole story? It could have been explained better, I think.
Okay, Thomas?
Yeah, I might just have to go with piggyback off of Tim's, because otherwise pretty much everything else I had was taken. So yeah, just because we only really get an explanation offhand at the end. It's like, oh, it's the tricks, this has to do with that villain that is only on the Sarah Jane Adventures, and it's offhand it mentioned that no one who's never watched the Sarah Jane Adventures would even get.
Well, that just goes to remind you about how closely tied the three shows were back then.
True.
Which, like, I guess in a way works, given that this is going into, like, Journey's End, which is like, oh, not Journey's End. Or is it?
It's
Yeah,
Journey's
Journey's End.
Journey's End is the last part of it. I can't remember what the first part of it was called.
Stolen Earth.
Yeah.
Stolen Earth
Stolen
and
Earth.
Journey's
Thank
End.
Stolen
Yeah.
Earth, that's it, yeah. Like, given this is going into, like, all three shows coming together for a thing, it was like, okay, I guess that sort of makes sense to pull something from Sarah Jane Adventures for this, but it's still like it's just such an offhand mention. Although I will say it's kind of funny that the woman that ends up being there to allow the beetle to latch onto Donna was the woman who played Chantho.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware
I
of that
must
either.
admit,
Okay.
I only know because of like some thing that I read or what video I watched that brought it up.
All right. So what I didn't like is I didn't like the beetle because it looked way too plasticky
It was a little bit stiff.
Yeah.
But it was invisible.
until they showed it.
Don't make me hurt
So,
you, Bill.
although maybe that's why it was invisible most of the time.
Also, the fact that in description people were calling it a spider, and I'm like, that's not a spider. That's a
Yeah.
freaking beetle.
Because the funny thing is I'm pretty sure that entire something they just scabbed from Planet of the Spiders, I think.
Almost
But-
does
Like a
feel like it
spider
because
on
it's the
steroids.
same
Like,
kind of back
yeah.
grab.
Mhm. But you look at the thing, and it looks like a plastic child's toy beetle that somebody blew up inside.
Especially when the doctor pokes it and you can see the very obviously like rubbery leg
Mhm.
moving a bit.
To me, that's like, okay, that's failed special effect. You could have been better making that in CGI, and it would have been a little more.
Or even just like not have that focus shot at the end where it's laying flat on the table.
Either
I
or.
mean, that's seriously Woolworth's plastic beetle, or triple size. Yeah, it's like no. Okay, so favorite scene, Bill.
So I'm going to go with the work camps scene. One is that it folds the character who is invented seemingly as comic relief into the overarching plot and causing him to help move the plot forward, and also just the fact that so much story is told in the body language, particularly Bernard Cribbins, but also the guest actor as well.
Yeah.
So much is just told in the body language in that scene.
All right, Matt.
I'm gonna go with the scene where Donna suddenly realizes she doesn't have time, and then sees the truck coming, and it's just like, okay, that's it. This is how it has to go. She doesn't even know if she's gonna come back or not, which she does, but she just knows that in order to save the universe and save her world, as she knows it at this point, she needs to basically just jump in front of a truck that can't stop.
All right, Tim.
Everyone's singing Bohemian Rhapsody. That was a
I love a
beautiful
good sing
scene.
song.
All right, Thomas.
I was almost gonna say that my only ones were taken by like both Bill and Matt, but then I realized, oh wait, I had one from the get-go that was a backup just in case. And that was the moment when Donna and her mother are having just before they get interrupted by all the singing. Where the mother's like saying that she like keeps remembering people that died. And they're just having this sort of quiet moment. And that, because it's like, it's one of those humanizing moments that it's like, kind of sucks that Donna's mom will never remember this and will still be kind of bitchy and whatever, but at the very least, it's nice to have Donna's mom having a scene like that where it's like, this is clearly affecting her.
So I think my favorite scene is Donna and Wilf with the telescope.
Yeah.
I like the scene before they notice that everything's going out, just them together and talking about stuff. And obviously that Wilf is Donna's favorite relative
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
obvious reasons. The fact that her
Gramps is
mother's
obviously her favorite family member, yes.
apparently, especially since her mother's like a total bitch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so
It says her mom's a pain and her dad passed away and gosh, who knows what all else, yeah.
so let's go with least favorite scene.
So I am going to say I don't necessarily mind the idea of this scene, but the execution was too over the top, especially the latter part of it, and that is the Bad Wolf scene. Particularly when Bad Wolf was written all over the TARDIS, I was just no. Just no. Especially since he doesn't show up at the next episode with Bad Wolf written all over his TARDIS. It's just
Yeah, it was a little over the top. Matt, how about you?
Scene I didn't like. I actually don't like how the end of the Beale dying and the woman just running off at the end of Donna's little crazy trip. It's just like, okay, can we get any explanations out of her, or we're just letting her run away, and the only other evidence we have is a dead bug. Great. I mean, yeah, we get a minor explanation, but we really don't know how or why this is set up the way it is, and she just runs off without any explanations. It's just like, all right.
All right, Tim.
I didn't like that scene when everything has really gone to hell and Donna says to her mom, I guess I was always a disappointment to you. And the mom doesn't even look at her and she says, yep. It's like that really hammered it home. Like Donna's mom is a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
That was unnecessarily bitchy. Like the point had already been made.
Is there okay, I was going to say, is there a particular reason you chose that one and not the whole, I guess I've given up on you?
No, but I was going to take that as mine.
So it's kind of the same almost scenario. Yeah, It's just her mom being a complete and total pain.
Like every time her mother appeared on it, I'm just like, okay, God, I'm going to hate this scene.
As if I don't hate this character enough.
Yeah, but I think before this episode, she was just kind of nagging and annoying, but like, so are many characters. And this episode, I think, really solidified her as fuck you.
Well, also, part of it, I think, is the fact that the character is not supposed to be taking this well at all. But then, she chooses to take it out on Donna, which
basically in the most passive way possible. Yeah.
If it was more of a thing, if she just wasn't paying attention to what Donna was saying, then it's like she's just completely zoned out or something. So the or whatever is just more like, I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying. I'm stuck in my own thoughts or whatever. That'd be kind of fine, but it's like, wow.
Yeah. Wow, you're a horrible person. Go away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially it's especially kind of annoying because they give her a humanizing moment earlier, and then they're like, no, she's still a bitch.
Yeah. Is there any other least favorite scene for you, Thomas?
I guess just probably the scene where Rose suddenly just knows what the beetle is. I'm like, I'm sorry, how do you know exactly what this beetle is and what it's doing and that it's feeding off time and all this? It's like, why do you know that? Like, there's like that bit later where she's just like, oh, I just said that because it sounds like something the doctor would say. But in this case, she's speaking pretty confidently. Oh yeah, I totally know what this beetle is. It's like, no, you don't. Why the hell would you know?
Yeah, they try too far to make Rose basically be the doctor.
It doesn't really work.
No, it doesn't. All right, final
if
thoughts.
Rose was being the doctor, she would have saved the day all those times, and
Mhm.
everyone wouldn't be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's dead, Rose. It's all your fault.
The dead Rose. Everybody's dead, Rose.
Everybody's dead. Everyone is dead, Rose.
Even Jack?
Yes, even Jack. Everybody's dead, Rose.
What about Sarah Jane?
I don't know why we even sent her to another dimension.
All right. Final thoughts, Bill.
All right, so I really like this episode. I know we've dug on a few bits of it, which keeps it from being perfect, but it's still, I think, a great all-around episode, and I'm still gonna have to struggle with whether we've dinged it enough to drop it from a top score. I also kind of wonder if some of our complaints might have been mitigated if at the end of Journey's End, Rose had turned around and been like, "Oh, before I go, I need to borrow a vortex manipulator," and stolen Jack's, and then gone and did this episode. But that's not what happened.
No.
And yeah, I guess I've said everything I have to say.
All right, Matt.
One thing I didn't mention is that it's not even just Kathleen in this, but just a lot of the roles. We also mentioned Bernard Cribbins. Just the main characters that are focused on for this story just put on such a huge performance for this and makes it what it is. The other little nitpicks be damned.
All right. Is that all you have to say?
That's about it. Yeah.
All right, Tim.
Like this had a great performance by Catherine Tate. Unfortunately, the Doctor wasn't in this episode long, but there was a good reason for that. And
he's dead.
Yeah, that's the good reason. Well, actually, no, that's a terrible reason. But you know what I mean. But again, I just loved how bold and evocative this episode was, and the only bad side was that some of the things, like the questions, were a bit glossed over. Like too many questions were raised, but not enough questions to take away from the enjoyment of this episode. I think it was covered it pretty good.
All right. So you're done there, Tim?
I'm done.
Thomas?
I am definitely glad I got to re-watch this twice, because as far as I can tell, this might actually be the first time I've ever seen Turn Left, which is weird because I feel like I've should have watched it before but didn't, or it's just been so damn long that I'd forgotten what it was like.
Shame.
But yeah, this is like, there are definitely issues that stop this from being as good as it could have been, but even then, it's not like massive, oh, it ruins the whole episode stuff. It's just like stuff here and there that bring it down just a bit. Otherwise, I would definitely say this is definitely worth watching. I mean, you can skip it because like the bit at the end isn't really necessary going into the two-part finale of the series, but even then, I would still say it's worth watching.
Anything else, Thomas?
Not really.
Okay. So my thoughts are the fact that this is probably the best of the Dr. Light episodes we've had, although an argument could be made for Blink, but not by me. At the same time, this works well as a prologue to the upcoming series, fourth finale, The Stolen Earth: Journey's End. And it's done well. It's very well acted. There are some writing difficulties, and I think though that was all Russell T basically building up Rose where he shouldn't be. But other than that, it is not bad. It's very enjoyable, and like I said, I love the entire what if concept. It's always been my favorite for ages. So that really brings it above and beyond in my case. So let's go to the ratings. Bill, you were reviewing first. You get to rate it first.
I guess the right thing to do would be for me to round down and give it a 4.5.
And this is from our negative Nancy people.
Yes.
Matt, how about you?
Not question 5.
All
Just
right.
being honest.
Matt speaks. Tim.
I will give this a 5 as well.
Thomas.
You know what? I feel like it's dinged just enough that I'll have to agree with Bill and give this a 4.5 instead.
Oh, God, you're giving me the hard part. 2 for 5, 2 for 4.5. And
You know what?
I have to make...
Honestly, I was afraid my first instinct was too high, but after hearing 2 other people go with that, I'm going to go with the full 5. Because I've been struggling with it this whole time, so I'm just going to stick with the 5.
Which now makes Thomas our negative Nancy. What the hell's going on here?
Thomas didn't feel the feels.
Yeah, and I'm in that same boat because it's literally floating around that 4 3/4 stars rating, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Thomas thought it was just below 4 3/4 because that'll round down to 4.5. My question, because the plastic beetle's a nitpick. I will admit that straight out. There have been far cheesier monsters in Doctor Who that we've let slide.
Oh yeah.
So it all comes down to overpowered Rose.
Yeah.
Is overpowered Rose enough to bump it from a 5 to a 4.5?
You could say.
I don't think so. I think it gets a 5 from me. As a 4.8 to a 5.
In that case, I will admit, to be fair, even hearing you talk that through, it's like, yeah, I was mainly just nitpicking as well, so I was probably just dinging it a bit much, so fuck it. I'll join the party and knock mine back up.
In the conversation of scores,
Bill,
we had 2 converts.
So, with Bill and Thomas both taking their retcon, that goes us from it coming out to being a 4.8 to a 5.0, putting this at the top of our AUP ratings list.
What we need is the David Tennant negative Nancy to come on. Where's Erin? Is she asleep?
Where's Erin? She's at work. I have to go pick her up after this.
Call her and ask her what
to wrap it up.
This now makes this a 9-way tie for number 1, along with Caves of Androzani, Sarah Jane Adventures, The Lost Boy, Remembrance of the Daleks, The Face of Evil, Pyramids of Mars, Battlefield, Human Nature, Family of Blood, and The Doctor's Wife.
You're welcome.
It is better than The Pirate Planet, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from Torchwood, Kinda, The Unearthly Child minus The Tribe of Gum, and it is worse than nothing.
Nothing.
There we go. Tied for number 1 with 8 other contestants. That's all we have to say about Turn Left. I will say one other thing.
One of us.
I will say one other thing. I just have to find it first. And that is the fact that this works as a prequel to the Stolen Earth Journey's End. Where did that show up on our list? There it is at number 26 with a 4.7. So this prologue is better than the actual thing it's opening for.
It's a hell of an opener.
What did I rate that one while you have it open?
I don't have the master.
Oh, you only have the
Just
sum.
at the final scores.
Yeah, let me take a look. I don't even remember when we did that one.
It had
I'm
been a while
assuming you
ago.
might have done it in I'm assuming you might have done it when you were covering a bunch of Dalek stuff in a row.
I'm wondering if we counted it as a regeneration story or as a Dalek story or as
it's part of the Dalek stories.
Probably
Bill
Daleks.
gave it a. Where is it? I lost it.
Bill gave it a 5.0.
Ooh.
I gave it a 4.5. I can't remember why. I'd have to rewatch that. Matt gave it a 5. Aaron gave it a 4.0. Again, our non-tenant person. And Tim gave it a 5.0.
The reason it's so low is because Aaron didn't like it.
Right, because Aaron was on the podcast that day. If Aaron was on the podcast today, although actually the 10th Doctor wasn't in this episode, so maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe she liked it more.
Oh, I think the 4.5 for me came out of the Chintzy regeneration cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Kind of, I still am a little butthurt that they wasted a regeneration on that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, Bill, take us out.
Yes, so comment below. Let us know. What do you think? 4.5 or 5? There's really no other options, obviously. So, which one of those do you pick?
And obviously, if you hate this episode, you're wrong.
Yes.
You're also wrong.
Like or dislike the video if you do either of those things, and of course, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and follow if you're watching on Twitch.
All right, so next week we'll be taking a week off to celebrate Christmas with our friends and family, but we'll be back on New Year's Day to discuss the first part of the series 12, or the 12th series of Doctor Who. Join us for Spyfall Part 1, written by Chris Chibnall and starring Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair, and Mandeep Gill as Yasmin Khan. And of course, the week after that, we'll be doing Spyfall Part 2, written by the same people and starring the same people. Catch us then.
Good night. God bless.